There's a big elephant in the room, which is a 3% housing levy to be imposed both on payroll employees and the employer. That's 3% on the employee and 3% on the employer. Now, Ruth, you just recently came back from Kenya. What's the actual sentiment on the ground from your experience in Kenya, outside the noise we hear on social media from diasporans? Because as diasporans, we are not there. Maybe might there be pockets of employed Kenyans who actually love this finance bill, they love this idea of a 3% tax, and we are just not hearing it?
I did not meet anybody who liked the idea.
Wow.
Mainly because of how it's structured, right? So it's so hard. Okay, I mean, at the beginning it was so hard for me to understand what they were talking about. But the idea is you get a levy, and at first he was refusing to call it a tax. They still call it a levy. What the heck? It's a tax. You're taking it from my paycheck to put it aside for housing that I have access to. What if I don't want that house? What if I've already built my own house?
Yeah.
You know? And I think that is the dissonance people have. It's one thing if you actually literally called it a tax, a welfare tax, whatever, call it something else. Because governments have to like build houses and whatever, but call it something else. It's not a housing levy that somehow I have access to, but it might not even be enough for me if I ever want it, right? And also you're forcing employers to also contribute towards it. I mean, people are going to lose jobs eventually because they can't. Can I also go back to the digital tax content creators? Yes. Funny, I only got to hear about that when I was here. And to a good extent, that to me, not to anybody else, just to me, makes a bit of sense if I understood how they're being taxed. Because you cannot be making money without tax. Without being taxed. I mean, the government is providing services that you actually partake in, so you do need to contribute towards the government's income. But I would want to know how they get taxed today, and if they don't get taxed, I mean, they need to contribute.
No, I think the most confusing part about that digital content creator tax, and maybe Hila might chime in on this, is I've never quite understood the taxing philosophy of Kenya, because I've only been taxed in the US. Kiare, I hope you're not listening. I know. The 15% is being called a withholding tax. Now, from my understanding, that's a tax, that's kind of like the withholding tax that they take from your paycheck, wherever you're employed out here in the US.
They basically don't trust you.
They take a certain percentage, and then when you file your taxes before April 15th, they measure how much you owe versus how much you've paid, and then they see either if you still owe that you have to pay IRS or if IRS owes you. So that's how I understand a withholding tax.
Yeah.
So now they want to get 15% from digital content
Up
creators,
front.
meaning if you make $100K a month, they want whoever the service provider is, Google or whoever is giving you the money, to give you only 85 and to directly give the government 15,000 at source. So that's not money that you won't touch.
Is there reconciliation with the government and you?
So that's the part that I have not understood about Kenyan taxes, and that's where Itela comes in, because I hope Kerry is not listening to me, but that's where Itela comes in, because I've never quite understood, is your 15K ikishenda kwa mganga hairudi tena, or can you go back and file your taxes and then get that money back if depending on your income bracket?
I agree, and I'd like to hear his take on it. I think, as I said, my thing is people need to contribute to the tax bill, like all of us. But then I'd want to know how they do it. I forgot I wanted to say, so I'll keep going.
All right. Okay. So when you look at that proposal, it's actually very interesting. The government of Kenya has very intelligent people who work at the Kenya Revenue Authority. And the one thing that they've actually been able to realize is that, you'll go to TikTok, you'll get to YouTube, you will see people making content, and they've been told that at some point in time a payment is actually done. Now, if you're the Sovereign Republic of Kenya, you would end up going to recognize the individual with a PIN number and the organization registered in country. Now, TikTok are not registered in Kenya as an entity.
Wow. So all those who are making cash on TikTok, it's 100% Yao.
Precisely. So they'll go around and backtrack. I mean, reverse engineer. How does TikTok pay you? Do they pay you via your bank through a bank transfer, or do they pay you via M-Pesa?
Okay.
And what they'll simply be able to go around and do at some point in time is be able to go around and triangulate those transactions that come in from any of these service providers, where people can go and post their content, and then reach out to you and say, Badao, you cannot withdraw your money today. There was 100,000 shillings. What was it for? The moment you say TikTok, they say, thank you very much. We'll take off 15% and move on through. And because, of course, it's due to the diverse nature within how people go around and conduct business and commerce. So TikTok do not necessarily need to have a presence in Kenya. But if they give you a platform so that you can actually showcase and people do the hits and they compensate you, that's where they're really coming on from. It's a bit of a stretch in itself, but, like Ruth actually said, at the end of the day, yes, you've actually created content, you've been remunerated to it. They expect that since you're still in Kenya, by and large, that you'll actually enjoy services and amenities like good roads, medical healthcare and whatnot, and they want you to come around and contribute.
Yeah.
But this is actually a departure from what used to be the case. If you were to look at a content creator, for instance, they'd ideally be considered a consultant, and the norm has always been 10% withholding tax for anyone who's doing consultancy work.
Yeah.
So why 15%? I'm not too certain, because if you had to use the same sort of thinking, the rationale should have been 10%, and no engagement has actually been done. Of course, in any sort of dispensation, when you're trying to go around and create a law, there's got to be public participation within a reasonable period in time. So within the last 6-7 weeks, people have been trying to talk about it. Not too certain whether the intention is to go around and look at alternatives and maybe try and massage and try and ensure that all these particular parameters are hit, but that's where we currently are.
Okay. Now, the withholding tax, is there reconciliation, because, and this is now where, our diaspora-ness comes out. Is there reconciliation? Because typically, like even here in the US, we have that withholding tax, but between January 1st to April 15th, it's a time when you do your filing taxes, and that filing is sort of a reconciliation, like to see if IRS withheld a lot of money, they're gonna give back some to you, or if not, or is that 15% now
That's
standard?
gone.
Like once it's gone, it's gone.
So
Like
I
there's
think-
no reconciliation for getting it back.
The intention with the withholding tax, if for instance both entities were legally recognized in Kenya, like company A, could be TikTok, could be YouTube,
Yeah.
whoever is registered in Kenya, and myself, Hillary, one of the content creators, I already have a pin. Ideally, for each and every particular amount that I'm saying that had withholding tax, I should be able to go around and get concurrence from the organization that is listed on record in Kenya. I'm not too certain whether TikTok will actually be interested in trying to send confirmations to every taxing agency across the world, and hence why they've just made it an automatic tax, so that for as long as you can actually triangulate that the funds came in from someone that we know remunerates people for creating content, we'll just hit it
So
down.
basically it's just like a sales tax. Ukilipa umelipa, imeenda.
Kiendacho kwa mganga kirudi.